full view of the public. But when they want to hide the stuff, frankly, it is the reality is because there's massive fraud and abuse. That's the reality. Nobody needs to hide something unless they have something to hide. Once in a while you've got something that's say an intelligence operation or like that actually needs to be classified, but that's a rare situation. That's a tiny fraction of expenditures. The vast majority of these things, it's unfortunately a tremendous amount of fraud and abuse. Now, and the reason that is so extreme with the federal government is that the checks never bounce for the federal government. Okay, so the federal government can always make more money. And the problem is that in doing so, that's what creates inflation. Something that I really want to reinforce for people is that it's government spending that creates inflation. So when you see prices go up at the grocery store, it's because the government spent more money than it brought in taxes, increased the money supply, diluted the value of money, and made your paycheck go be less valuable. It meant like the prices are going up because of government-induced spending, of government spending that results in inflation. So now it's just very important to connect those dots because people they sort of think like, well, maybe the supermarket's taking advantage of them, and they're not. You can look at the financials of the supermarket; they have like 2% margins. So it's got nothing to do with the price gouging in the supermarket. It's just that the government spent too much. That increased the money supply and diluted the value of somebody's paycheck. And that's why the prices go up at the grocery store. So, but the good news is, if we solve government overspending, and the money supply grows at the same rate as the output of goods and services, there will be no inflation. And the prices in the supermarket now will be the same as the prices in the supermarket in a year. And that's a super big deal. And that really affects people's lives. That's what we're aiming for. And we're going to do everything possible to succeed in that goal.
And I think every dollar saved, I mean, the problem you just mentioned, Elon, is exactly why 10-year interest rates on U.S. Treasuries are persistently going up. Even if the government's trying to make them go down, the market's bidding them right back up.
Yes.
But conversely, for every hard dollar actually saved, right? So how many ever billion it was in the first 2 weeks, there's actually, it's almost like a 2-to-1 saving, because that means that the interest rate that lenders to the U.S. government charge will go down.
Yes.
At a time when the interest rate payment itself on our national debt is one of the biggest items of our federal budget.
Yeah.
So that automatically comes down for every one of these other savings.
Exactly.
And the only thing to be presented as a coherent plan, which I think you're already beginning to do, that alone, I think, will have a 2-to-1 savings for every dollar that's actually hard dollar that's actually saved, because you get the interest cost next year that comes down as a consequence as well.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point you just made, Vivek. I just want to basically repeat that and reiterate that for the audience. When you actually get a double benefit when you bring down government spending, and it's a very important double benefit, which is that you stop inflation and interest payments go down because the government is no longer borrowing money. So if the government is borrowing money, it's actually competing with everyone else to borrow money, and that drives up the interest rate. So if we solve government spending, in a nutshell, your grocery bill stays the same, your mortgage payment goes down, and your car payment goes down, and your credit card bill goes down.
Exactly.
I think that's what the people of America want. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. I couldn't agree.
Goal.
I couldn't agree more, gentlemen. I mean, it's really important. And I'm sitting here tonight in Iowa, and I took my mom to church this morning, and man, everybody at church, we all kind of stand around afterwards and visit, and everybody's just really excited about the opportunity that the new administration is bringing, because costs are just through the roof for people in my neighborhood in Southwest Iowa. I mean, it's hard. These are folks just getting up every single morning trying to do their job and do the best. And yet we as a government have failed to listen to their needs, and then to be able to cut the spending at the federal level, to make sure that their taxes stay low, and make sure that we are paying down our debt. No more deficit spending. Let's try and balance this budget as best we can. And we've heard plans from, Ron Johnson and others in the Congress, but we've really got to get serious about it, because like every one of my constituents owes $67,000 to our national debt. That's outrageous.
And it's getting worse over time. So really, if we don't do something about it, America's going to go bankrupt. That's a fact. So we must do something about it. It's imperative. Senator Mike Lee, I see you've joined. Would you like to add something to this conversation? I know you've got some great stuff as well to talk about.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much for the invitation. Look, I see this as an inflection point. Every 75 to 90 years in Anglo-American history, we've seen a major upheaval. We had one in 1776, another one in 1861, another one in 1937. 2025, we're due for one. And I think that's going to be the Doge revolution. And I think it has to be about much more than just the individualized, wasteful spending of pet projects. At the core of all this is a fundamental ailment, which is that we've misconstrued the purpose of the United States government. It's supposed to be about just a small handful of things: weights and measures, trademarks, copyrights, and patents, regulating interstate foreign commerce.
I mean, the founders of the country it would blow their minds that the federal government has gotten so gigantic and is interfering with people's lives in so many ways.
That's exactly right. And then we've compounded the problem once we lost track of what the federal government's purpose is. We put the wrong branch in charge of the wrong responsibilities. We've been making most of our law, 100,000 pages a year, through the executive branch, which the Constitution says you can't do. It says you cannot make a federal law unless you go through both houses of Congress and then give it to the president. So we've destroyed federalism and separation of powers. I think for Doge to succeed, we have to restore both of those. In my view, the best way to start is by passing the REINS Act, which would require Congress to enact those laws. And I think to get that passed this year, we've got to attach it to the debt ceiling bill. I posted on that on my base Mike Lee account.
I mean, I absolutely agree with you 100%. I mean, what you're saying is just absolutely true. There's vast amounts of federal regulation, which are de facto laws that are created. It's an incomprehensible amount. It's literally no human could possibly even comprehend it. If you tried your hardest your whole life, you could barely understand a small fraction of the regulations and these regulations. If you look at them, there's millions of them, and it's not like any one regulation is the showstopper. But I mean, the way I sort of visualize it, it's like Gulliver. Like America's like Gulliver, tied down by millions of little strings. And we need to cut those springs and free the giant.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Those laws, which they are laws, those will put you in prison. Those will shut down your business. Those will ruin your life if you disobey them. No different than any other law.
It's totally crazy.
Well, it is exciting. Elon, isn't it true? President Trump has an executive order that says for every one new regulation that is put into place, 10 have to be rescinded.
Yes. And now, of course, the bureaucracy is going to try to game that by like having the one regulation sort of, when like somebody says, well, everyone can ask one question, but then have a question in like 10 parts. So it's possible to it's possible to game the regulations. So I think in addition to that executive order, which I certainly applaud, I think we need to go in and do wholesale removal of regulations. Like regulations basically should be default gone, not default there, default gone. And if it turns out that we missed the mark on a regulation, we always add it back in. These regulations are added willy-nilly all the time. So we just got to do wholesale spring cleaning of regulation. and get the government off the backs of everyday Americans, so people can get things done, and the government doesn't have a sort of boot on the neck of the average Americans, which is because what are the the core founding values of this country? What has made America great? What will lead to further greatness is a focus on merit, that you get ahead as a function of your hard work and skill, and that you have freedom. It's free. It's the land of freedom and opportunity, and if the government has millions of regulations holding everyone back, well, it's not freedom. We've got to restore freedom.
And by the way, that's copied, multiplied, and 50-fold higher, where each of the 50 states then do the same thing.
Yeah.
And many of these federal regulations are duplicative of the states doing the exact same thing, where the bureaucracies in each of the states are behaving like the federal government. So you think about the impact on people's lives, it just layers one on top of the other. And, like you talk about zero-based budgeting, I really like this concept of zero-based regulations, where the default is nothing and build back on top.
Nothing, exactly.
Right.
I mean, it used to
that's what our founders wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. It used to be like, and not that long ago, if you wanted to start a business, you just start a business. You just go, you just
no license.
Store. You can just do it. The government's not like prying into every part of like, get the license for this, do the license for that, get 17,000 permits. I mean, like you look at LA and like how it's like, I mean, when I lived in LA, it was hard to get a permit to remodel your kitchen. And now with this disaster that's happened in LA, this terrible tragedy, just the sheer number of permits required to build a house are staggering. Basically, they've made it illegal. But we got to start somewhere on the regulatory front, and certainly, at least if we address federal regulation, then people can choose to move from one state to another and still remain in America, and move to the state that has less regulation, where the government is less, gives you more freedom. And you've got that competition between states. You've got that federal system that was meant to be the case. That was how the country was created. Like, let the states compete. And if your state is being oppressive, you can go to a neighboring state and live there. That's the whole idea.
Federalism is the answer, no doubt. But you got two things going for us right now in the country that haven't happened in a long time. One is a willing president, Donald Trump, who actually believes everything that all four of us have just said, which is a beautiful thing. And without that, it wouldn't be possible.
Let me just say, the more I've gotten to know President Trump, the more I like him. Frankly, I love the guy. He's great.
Yeah, and he's full bore more than any president we've had since the creation of the administrative state. So I think that's number one. And number two is, thanks to him, actually, in his first term, you got a Supreme Court that 6-3 vehemently agrees with everything we've just said.
Yes.
And so I think it's possible.
Yes.
In fact, it's actually possible.
Yes. In fact, if it's not possible now, it'll never be possible. This is our shot. This is the best hand of cards we're ever going to have. Mm-hmm. And if we don't take advantage of this best hand of cards, it's never going to happen. So we're going to do it.
I agree.
Now or never.
Yeah, now or never. And I do think you're right, Vivek. I mean, with the first administration of President Trump and kind of lessons learned through that administration, and now in the second administration, the stage is set. And he knows how to aggressively tackle a lot of these issues that have plagued us for years. And folks ask me, Trump's first 100 days, what is that going to be like? And I'm like, forget the 100 days, folks. It's going to happen a lot faster than that. And he needs to continue to be aggressive. And we all know there's going to be bumps along the way. Of course there are, because we're moving at the speed of relevance here. But we've got to get in there and make an impact so that our constituents can actually see the benefit, because we've got a tough mid-cycle or mid-presidential year election coming up in 2026, and we cannot lose the House or the Senate. because then the president will be dead in the water.
Yeah, but
And
absolutely.
we just need to move out.
Well, that's
Move out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the people will judge the performance and whether actually we got things done and whether things are better off, and in 2 years. And I think if people feel like, yeah, they're better off, the country's working better, they feel like, there's, the reward for hard work is there, that they're, that their paycheck's going further than it used to, that their standard of living is better, their mortgage is lower, the credit card bills are lower, the prices at the stores are the same, they haven't risen dramatically. Then I think there's no problem. We will win the next election. The people will reward that performance. So I think that's what needs to happen. And but I think if it does happen, there will be a Republican win in the midterms, and which is unusual. But I think if we make these goals happen, I think we'll actually have an increased majority in the House and Senate, and be able to continue to as the president would say, make America great and even greater. So.
Love it.
The case, the blanket that, Elon, you and I have talked about this. Mike Lee, you and I have talked about this. But, might as well just say it here as well, is when in doubt, push it to the states, right? If there's some doubt about, okay, well, we're not sure about this regulation. You got a whole nuclear energy framework at the federal level. You have an entire one in each of the 50 states. Same thing for spending or some other program. Are people going to really suffer if this is taken away? Federalism is the answer. Just push it to the states. And, I think that's a big part of, obviously what I'm looking to do next, but it's governors across the state, whatever, let them bear the load of what the federal government needed, because that's actually what the founders envisioned in the first place. I know, Mike, you've been a crusader for this since day one.
No, that is right. That is the whole reason I ran for this job 15 years ago. The fact is, the people of our country are upset. They're upset about our government because it manages things poorly. And what a lot of people are starting to grasp is that it's not just a matter of changing from the red team to the blue team and back to the red team and making sure you've got better personnel in there, because better personnel won't make those same mistakes and won't fund the stupid studies about the drunk gerbils on a treadmill.
Yeah.
The point is, it's poorly run. Because when the U.S. government is doing all kinds of things that it's not supposed to be doing, that should be left to the states or to the people, in the words of the 10th Amendment, it becomes very poor, very bad at doing things that it is supposed to do. You can't be good at running the Pentagon and at making sure that traffic lanes, the lines of commerce are open. When you are doing all kinds of things that the federal government wasn't built to do, or using it as the wrong tool. There are very few things that the federal government currently does that the federal government is itself uniquely equipped and constitutionally authorized to do. That's what we've got to get back to. And that's why this is going to be a painful, radical, transformational change in many circumstances. But it's going to be a huge relief to the American people. Once we get through the initial shock, and once we get through this stage where the media is telling us that the sky is going to fall, dogs and cats living together in the streets, apocalyptic stuff, once they realize that's not true, they're going to feel this huge burden lifted. That's what we want. We want a better future for America. We can't get to...
Absolutely.
Returning to our founding document.
Exactly. Couldn't agree with you more. And I'm actually pretty optimistic that we're going to make it happen. I think it's going to happen. So the progress is good so far, and if it keeps accelerating, then I think it's going to be awesome. So, the cost of excess regulation on economic growth and prosperity is really underestimated. If you basically don't even allow people to do things, like make it illegal, well, you can't, the builders can't build. America is a nation of builders. but we need to give the builders permission to build, and that's really what deregulation is all about. Just letting people do things.
Deregulation and meritocracy go hand in hand. Actually, they're two sides of the same coin. And you want to actually measure Doge's success is not just the deficit reduction. I don't think that's the sole metric, although it's a really important one. And bringing down the national debt and the interest payment costs as a consequence, that's really important. But actually, a lot of these benefits of delivering economic growth won't be measured in this year's deficit reduction, but will be measured in long-run GDP growth, long-run economic growth, long-run prosperity of the country.
Yeah,
and I think that's equally important.
I'm optimistic that we'll see a material impact in FY26, which starts in October. A lot of the stuff I think we'll make significant gains in FY25, government financial year 25, which ends in September. But I think that the sort of metric we're tracking, sort of kind of startup style, or just and we're going to be posting more and more detail on the Doge website and Doge handle on X. Is just so people can see in detail, like this is where we're seeing the delta in spending between current spending and government financial year 25, or 26, which starts in October, and that number is really, we think it's at this point over $1 billion, maybe $2 billion, maybe approaching $3 billion, I think we can. I think we can take $1 trillion out of the deficit next year. Like, obviously this is going to require, strong support from the president. But thus far, we certainly have that, and also support of the Congress, and support, and also hopefully support from the judiciary as well. But it's. I mean, basically, the goal in a nutshell is pretty straightforward. It's like we have a $2 trillion deficit, which is far in excess of economic growth. If we can get that deficit in half, from 2 trillion to 1 trillion, and we can get the economic growth to match that 1 trillion growth in the money supply, that means there will be no inflation, and also the interest rates will drop. Credit card interest down, mortgage interest down, car payment interest down, and prices at the store stay the same. That is a great outcome for people, and I think we can. I think we can do it.
I think
when people say it's unrealistic.
No,
people say it's unrealistic. But the funniest part about this is just the hard number here. And the four of us here know the answer, but for people who are listening, it might be eye-opening. Where, like, how much money did the federal government actually spend last year? Not the mumbo jumbo, not discretionary this, and not just how much did the federal government spend last year? It was about $7 trillion. It's just under $7 trillion. How much did we spend in this ancient time period known as 2019? Okay,
Not that long ago.
Like this year called 2019. Not that long ago. We all kind of remember 2019. It was $4.5 trillion. It was less than 4.5. 4.45. About $4.5 trillion. That's $2.5 trillion right there.
Yes.
So if you just go back to 2019, that's $2.5 trillion.
Exactly.
Which is insane, actually, that they think that that's impossible. As 2019 was not that long ago.
Right.
And it should be.
And nobody thought that there was
exactly.
an apocalyptic hellscape underway in 2019.
Yeah, 2019 was pretty cool, actually. I like 2019.
2019 was not some nightmarish hellscape. Exactly. In fact, we got things were just fine in 2019.
Mike can vouch for this too, though. What we saw with COVID, as we were pushing all those dollars out the door, they started a lot of programs with those dollars, and people just continue to expect those dollars to come, even though we're way beyond COVID.
Yes.
Way beyond COVID.
Well, so often people will say, well, you can't reduce deficit that much because what about all the entitlement spending? There's the sort of guaranteed spending. Well, but here's the thing: and especially during COVID, as you're alluding to, there was actually a massive growth, a massive increase in the amount of fraud and waste in entitlements, with fake people collecting Social Security, bogus payments to Medicare. The level of fraud is actually staggering. And it just cutting back on that. And by the way, it's not just even U.S. fraud rings. I don't know if people realize this, but there's the estimates I've seen are between 100 and 200 billion dollars in foreign fraud rings. There are professional foreign fraud rings operating that are taking somewhere between 100 and 200 billion dollars a year of U.S. taxpayer money out of the country. And a lot of people realize that. So the fraud in that case isn't even going to American fraudsters. It's going somewhere in other countries.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ilan, I sent that example to you the other day. Sat down with a friend of yours, works in ID technology, and he showed me that video of a deep fake where it was a Chinese scammer trying to receive U.S. federal government benefits. It's outrageous. But so much of that money that Chinese scammers are taking out of the pockets of our taxpayers.
Yes, and I mean, there's really there's American entitlements are being defrauded by people not even in the U.S. And from many other countries, because the fraud controls are so weak on the entitlements programs. The due diligence is so bad that it's actually possible to operate hundreds, if not thousands, of fake people and get entitlements sent to you that you then take the money out of the country, out of the United States. This is happening as we speak. It's utterly insane. So this is why I'm actually quite optimistic that $1 trillion can be saved just by addressing waste, fraud, and abuse. While it's a lot of work, I don't think this is some insurmountable task. I am confident it can be done, and we'll do everything in our power to make it happen. And I think that'll be, if we succeed. And I hope, I'd like to ask for the support of the American people, because we're going to get a lot of opposition. Because let me tell you, from what I remember most from one of the things I remember from the PayPal days was that, who complains the loudest is the fraudsters. Okay, so when somebody is trying to commit fraud to PayPal, where we would see the most amount of righteous indignation, it would be immediate, over-the-top righteous indignation, was from the fraudsters, not from honest people. Because honest people are like, I think there's something wrong with my account. I wonder what's wrong. Let me inquire. But the fraudsters will come at you immediately. It's like a tell that someone's actually doing fraud, because the level of sort of faux outrage is way over the top. So we're going to get a lot of that. A lot of people claiming with fake outrage, claiming that they're sort of a single mother with kids just trying to feed them. Meanwhile, it's like some dude operating a fraud ring out of another country. Actually, that's what the kind of thing we'll see. So really, I would like to ask for the support of the American people in pursuit of this goal, and bearing in mind that we're going to see some pretty outrageous stuff from the fraudsters as we crack down on fraud. They're going to be the loudest complainers. So, to anyone in America listening to this, your support in pursuit of this goal is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Ilan and Vivek. I think we've got a ways to go, but I'm glad it's rolling along. And this DOGE has been the most aggressive effort really to downsize or right-size our government since probably at least the Reagan Revolution. So just excited to be part of it and have the support of the American people as we move through and, make them squeal in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Thanks to DJT. Thank you, Ilan. And you keep kicking ass. And when in doubt, send it to the States.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll take care of it there. Exactly.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you, Senator Lee, perhaps one day Senator Ramaswamy, well, Governor Ramaswamy. Wait.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction we're headed.
And everyone who tuned in. Once again, I'm asking for your support for Noble Goal. And please help in any way you can. Like sometimes it's like the small things that happen on the side that there's this sort of small thankless tasks that actually will result. Like Doge is going to win. Doge will win if millions of people support it in ways that I wouldn't even know how they supported it. But just that you did, and so thank you to the unknown soldier.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, Elon, before we all break out of here, I do want to acknowledge the, I've founded the Senate Doge Caucus on my side of the rotunda. We've got some great co-chairs over in the House as well, with Pete Sessions and Aaron Bean and Blake Moore. They have got now, I think, over 100 members of Congress that have joined the Doge Caucus, and we've got 18 and climbing in the United States Senate as well. So you and the president and Vivek have all kind of really gotten everybody to come together, and I'm just really grateful that we have an outlet and are able to do this. So thank you all so much.
That sounds good, and we'll be doing this every week. So I look forward to having members from the House and other contributors, and try to keep the people informed and of the progress, and I think it'll be very interesting to follow along. So thanks everyone.
Thanks so much, Elon.
Wow. So that was Elon Musk, aka Adrian Dittman, and he is a fucking actor and a half. He changed. That's his Elon voice, and then he'll do his Adrian Dittman voice, and he uses his son in the background as a prop, like he's Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood, and he's saying that when single mothers who are welfare mothers have their benefits cut off, they're gonna scream the loudest. This shit is, you can't make this shit up. Hope you enjoyed it, Danny. Bye. Push it to the States.
The highest